Developing now, a disturbing story out of Brevard County. Tonight, a Palm Bay pastor is accused of having sexual relations with two different minors in his congregation. According to a police report, some of the crimes happened inside the church. News 6's Troy Campbell is following this disturbing story tonight from outside the jail where the pastor is being held without bond.
Well, Lordy have mercy. Hi there. I'm Professor Blackmore and welcome back to my channel. And I'm coming back to you today with another episode of my series entitled Pulpit Pedophiles. And if you want to get all caught up on all of the dastardly details of how so-called Apostle DeMiro Johnson of the Church of the Apostolic Saints in Greensboro, North Carolina, allegedly engaged in sexual intercourse with his 14-year-old spiritual daughter, who was later determined to be pregnant, and all of the other stuff he allegedly did, because honey child, it's a lot. Or if you want to get caught up on how so-called Bishop David Keandre Dixon of the Kingdom City Life Empowerment Church of Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, allegedly had sexual relations with a child, please watch my prior videos in this series. But after you watch this video until the end, because today I'm coming back to you with another case of a no good, dirty, low-down church house child molester allegedly disguised as a so-called preacher in the person of so-called Pastor Robert Douge of the Apostolic. And see here, the Apostolic, don't try to don't send me any comments in the comments section. I'm not saying anything about Apostolic, but it seems like it's always the Apostolic. And so this is the Apostolic Church in Christ in Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you have a weak stomach, then this is not for you, honey child. And this ain't for kids either, because I'm going to go straight to the court records. And y'all know I'm bringing the facts. But before I do, let's get some more flavor from the news reporting on this case so you can see why this so-called Pastor Douge finds himself on today's docket of the ProfessorBlackmore.com courtroom. And so, let's check it out.
Palm Bay police say the pastor and self-defense instructor is locked up here at the Brevard County Jail after they recorded a phone conversation where he admitted to sexually assaulting the two victims. Investigators say he used what he did for work to target the young women. 42-year-old Roberson Douge arrested on 20 counts related to sexually assaulting two minors repeatedly. Palm Bay police say their investigation began on Tuesday when two girls told detectives Douge had been sexually assaulting them for at least a year. One victim says her family moved to Palm Bay in 2019, attending Apostolic Church of Christ on Norman Street where Douge served as a pastor. She says she began visiting his home and he repeatedly raped her in the church's transport van while driving her home. Another victim says she too had been repeatedly raped by Douge both inside the church and inside his self-defense school called Tiger Claw Kung Fu Academy, located on Palm Bay Road. She also told investigators Douge employed her at the business, where some of the abuse also occurred. In the presence of a detective on a recorded call, police say Douge apologized to one of the victims and pleaded with her to not tell anyone, adding he has been sick to his stomach and that he was sorry and he loved victim 1 and victim 2. Palm Bay police ask any other victims to contact their special victims unit. We did send an email to the church but have not received a response. He's currently being held without bond. Outside the Brevard County Jail, Troy Campbell, Getting Results, News.
And now let me just say, just as in the other cases that I've covered in this series, there's little to no news reporting on these stories. And a few news outlets covered this story when Mr. Douge was first arrested in September of 2022, but nothing since then. Now, I want to start with the allegations from the law enforcement official's probable cause arrest warrant. And I'm reading directly from the public records available in the criminal court records. So this is not anything that I just made up. Now, the police received this call on September the 19th, 2022, regarding a sexual relationship that Mr. Douge was having with two young girls between the age of 12 and 15 since sometime in 2019. Now, both young girls alleged that they had these sexual relations with their pastor, Roberson Douge. And now, this is what prompted the call to the police, because on Sunday, September 18th, 2022, victim number 2 told victim number 1 that she had been going through something and wanted to tell her what she had been going through. Lordy have mercy, y'all. Okay, I'm going to try to keep it together. And now that's a direct quote from the court record. And so victim number 2 told victim number 1 that she had been engaging in sexual relations with their pastor, Roberson Douge, and that sexual relationship had been going on for a period of time, lasting until at least 1 month ago when they were talking to each other in August of 2022. So she confided in her in September of 2022, but she's telling her that this relationship ended a month prior in August of 2022. And so at that time, victim number 1 then confided in victim number 2 that she also had been engaging in sexual activities with Roberson Douge as well, and that the sexual activities had been going on for some period of time until that present time when they both had confided in each other in September of 2022. Now, victim number 1 told detectives that her family moved to Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida in the year 2019 when they started attending the Apostolic Church in Christ on Norman Street. And so victim number 1 stated that she would hang with Mr. Douge and his family at their residence. And I'll say it 100 times, parents, don't trust anybody with your children, not the pastor, not the teacher, nobody. But let me stay focused, y'all. Now, when it was time for victim number 1 to go home, Mr. Douge would drive her home, and it was on these rides home that Mr. Douge started touching her on her private parts over and underneath her clothing. Now, victim number 1 stated that the defendant then engaged in sexual intercourse in the back seat of his vehicle when he would park in empty parking lots within the city of Palm Bay before taking her home. And so victim number 2 stated that she would volunteer at Mr. Douge's Kung Fu Academy, and sometimes she would volunteer at the church where she would earn community service for her dual enrollment program at school. And so, all right, parents, pay attention, because these are the types of tactics that these dirty low-down dogs will use to try to get time with your children. Now, during this community service work at the church, victim number 2 states that the first incident occurred on the bathroom floor. Lordy have mercy, child. Now, this is a dirty low-down dog, but let me stay focused. On the bathroom floor of the church where they engaged in sexual intercourse. In addition, victim number 2 alleged that they would engage in sexual intercourse at Mr. Douge's Kung Fu Academy, as well as in the backseat of the church van when he would drive her back and forth from home, work, and church. And so, based on these allegations, law enforcement officials set up a controlled phone call in which victim number 1 called the pastor while victim number 2 was also standing by in the conversation while the call was monitored by law enforcement officials. Victim number 1 asked Mr. Douge if he was by himself, and he answered yes. Now, during this phone call, victim number 1 told Mr. Douge that a lot had transpired since they last saw each other on Sunday, September the 18th, 2022. She advised him that victim number 2 had confided in her that she had been engaging in sexual relations with him. And she realized it was during the same time that he had been engaging in sexual activities with her also. Okay, so at this point in the call, victim number 1 is telling Mr. Douge everything that victim number 2 said to her, not necessarily at this point anything that victim number 1 told victim number 2. And so Mr. Douge asked victim number 1 if they could meet somewhere to talk in person. And victim number 1 answered by saying no, but she stated further that victim number 2 would not lie to her about something like that. And so Mr. Douge then apologized and told victim number 1 he has been sick to his stomach and that he was sorry and that he loved both victim number 1 and victim number 2. I don't know why he thought that was going to do any good, but anyway. Mr. Douge asked victim number 1 if she told victim number 2 about them, and victim number 1 replied no. And so Mr. Douge begged victim number 1 not to tell victim number 2 or anyone else about their sexual relationship because it would destroy him and his family, and he was concerned about what the news would do to his children if it got out. So let me get this straight. He's worried about his children, but these children whose life you've ruined, you don't care nothing about them. But anyway, y'all. And so Mr. Douge then starts speaking to victim number 1 back and forth in Creole and in English. Now, riddle me this. Why are they talking in Creole? Well, I think that he probably began to realize that they were onto him or that somebody was listening in on that call. And so based on this information received from this control call, Mr. Douge was arrested. Now, I do kind of feel like he must have felt like that call was being monitored for him to start speaking in Creole. But you may be wondering why he felt so comfortable talking to this child on a phone line that could be easily recorded in the first place. Well, you know how I feel about these text messages, and if I say it once, I'll say it 1,000,000 times. Parents, you need to be monitoring those phone calls, those text messages, and everything else in that phone, because these pastors have no problem getting your child's phone number and they are calling and texting your children. Be aware and be warned. Now, I'm going to read from the search warrant affidavit in connection with the search warrant for his iPhone so I can tell you why he was so comfortable talking to these children. And now, for some reason, law enforcement are trying to hide it, but you can tell from the search warrant that these 2 girls are sisters or they are closely related in some way. And it further clarifies that Mr. Douge had been having sex with both the girls for over 3 years. And detectives collected the girls' cell phones and conducted what we call consent searches on both of the girls' iPhones and discovered the WhatsApp texting app on both of the girls' phones. Now, victim number 1 and victim number 2 both stated that they communicated with Pastor Douge in text messages and phone calls using WhatsApp because the app will delete their communications. And so law enforcement officials observed conversations on victim number 2's phone and a chat between victim number 2 and a person identified as Pastor. And so victim number 2 stated that Pastor was the contact name that she used to identify Mr. Douge in her phone. Now, although both victims stated that Douge would make them delete their text messages, they believed his phone might have text messages and images saved on his phone. Lordy, y'all now. Now, upon arrest, law enforcement officials seized Mr. Douge's blue iPhone 13 Max Pro. Now, y'all know I'm dying to know what they found in that doggone phone. But the gravy train of information stops at this point because Mr. Douge's attorney enters the case and files a notice of appearance on October the 26th, 2022. Now, this is the kind of action I expected to see in the case involving Cora Jake's husband. But as you can see on this docket sheet, within days, on October the 29th, 2022, his attorney files a motion seeking to reduce the $700,000 bail, and that hearing took place on December the 12th, 2022. Now, in support of his motion, the attorney states that Mr. Douge resides with his wife and children and serves as pastor of the Apostolic Church in Christ, or Apostolic Church of Christ, whatever it is, and that he has no criminal record and that he is not a flight risk. And at the time of the hearing in December, the judge did lower the bail to a total of $90,000. Now, here is the judge's bail order setting the terms of Mr. Douge's release. And now, as you can see, neither him nor his family is permitted to post on social media regarding the case. He can't return to the church or the Kung Fu Academy. He's placed on GPS electronic monitoring, and he may not leave his home except for necessities of life. In addition, he's not to have any contact with anyone 18 years of age or younger, and he's not to have any contact with the victims or their family. And as you can see on this jail record, Mr. Douge was released on that same day with the ability to enjoy his last Christmas with his family. Because after reading these charges from the charging document on file with the court, I just don't know. But I'll let y'all let me know what you think. Now again, if you have a weak stomach, honey child, you might need to tap out now, because I'm going to read from the information charging document on file. Now, in some jurisdictions, you can charge a defendant without convening a grand jury, in which case you would receive a grand jury indictment. But in this jurisdiction, the prosecutor can charge the defendant by filing what is called an information. And so I'm going to read some selections from the information related to the various counts. And I'm not going to read all of them, because the only difference between some of them is the date range when the acts took place. But for example, in count 1, it is stated that, quote, on one or more occasions on or between August 1st, 2019 and May 28, 2020, Roberson Douge did engage in sexual activity with a person 12 years of age or older, but less than 16 years of age, by placing his into and or in union with victim number 1 or victim number 2's, end quote. And now there are several counts for the two girls with different date ranges that cover this same allegation, as you can see here. But as you can see here in count 2, the difference is seen wherein it is stated that Douge placed his, quote, into and or in union with victim 1 or victim 2's mouth, end quote. And so there are several counts for this allegation with different date ranges as well, as you can see here. Now, it seems that Florida's statutory rape crime has different age ranges, which also compensates for offenders over the age 24 having sex with a child who is 16 or 17 years of age or younger. So the first grouping dealt with statutory rape, i.e., an offender 18 years of age or older having sexual relations with a child who is between the age of 12 to 15. And so there are several counts to compensate for times when Mr. Douge had sexual relations with one or more of the girls at the time when each of the girls turned 16. And so it appears that these girls were possibly 13 and 14 years old when he started having sex with them, and it went on for 2 to 3 years. Can you believe that? But let me stay focused, honey child. So for these counts, the information charging document goes into alleging that, quote, on one or more occasions beginning on or between August 1st, 2019 through May 21st, 2022, in the various remaining counts, Robert Douge, being then 18 years of age or older, did intentionally touch in a lewd and lascivious manner the breasts, genitals, genital area, or buttocks, or clothing covering them of a person less than 16 years of age by touching and or rubbing victim number 1 or victim number 2's breasts, buttocks, and or area, end quote. And so I tend to think the prosecutor has been able to find the cell phone records on Mr. Douge's phone and maybe some other digital evidence to back all of this up. And another thing that's notable about this case that's different from the Cora Jakes case is the prosecutor in this case has enough sense to make sure that the children's names in this case are protected. I mean, it is very difficult to know any way, shape, form, or fashion who these children are. They don't even disclose the age of the children. And so they did a very good job of doing that. And I thought that that would have been done in the Cora Jakes case as well. And now once it becomes a public record, it's a public record. And so whatever information is in that public record is fair game. It's up to the prosecutor to protect the victim. But as you know on here, I just ask and report and I let you decide. So what do you think about this case? Do you think this dirty, low-down pastor was stupid enough to save this evidence in his cell phone? And do you think there are other victims at that church or at that so-called Kung Fu Academy? Please let me know by leaving your comments in the comments section below. And I want to take this opportunity to remind parents to get in those cell phones and consider why your children need to have all of these disappearing messaging apps like Snapchat and WhatsApp. And in the meantime, I hope you'll also give me a big thumbs up. And I hope you'll also consider donating to this video and my entire channel ministry by clicking the super thanks heart button below. And while you're there, I hope you'll also consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and click the bell, honey child, so you'll be notified whenever I come back with more hot tea on this case. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram.